mobile app, on your Alexa-powered smart speaker, and on TuneIn, iHeart, and on Odyssey. Now, from the Signature Bank Studios, this is Chicago's Morning Answer with Dan Proft and Amy Jacobson.
I walk out song.
Yeah. Well, in with a roar, out with a whimper.
What's going on with my gender, Dan?
You're done.
You know you're done. You white person, male.
It's not going great for white heterosexual Christian men either, but women, we don't even know what you are anymore.
What does that
right?
mean?
What do you mean? We got a Supreme Court justice who has no idea what that word means and what it connotes and who it is properly applied to. That's the subject and part of a new book by Carrie Gress. She's a fellow at the Ethics and Public Policy Center and an endangered species, member of the endangered species, apparently. Scholar at the Institute for Human Ecology at Catholic University of America as well. The book, The End of Woman, How Smashing the Patriarchy Has Destroyed Us. We tried to warn you, ladies. Nobody would listen. Carrie Gress, thanks for joining us. Appreciate it.
Good morning. Thanks so much for having me.
Morning. How much time do you ladies have? I mean, does the
We're on the clock, huh?
Does the planet burn up? I mean, I think that's 2030. Does the planet burn up before women are extinct, or what? What do you think?
Oh goodness, I think it could happen actually, but yeah, I think that's definitely the goal, to get rid of us entirely. I think the trans movement is moving in strong.
Well, the patriarchy, though, you use the term smashing the patriarchy like it's past tense, but I understand that from the deep thinkers on the left that the patriarchy still very much is oppressing women in America and the West.
Yeah, well, that's why we had to have the Barbie movie, to remind everybody just how awful the patriarchy is. So it seems to be doing a good job in its latest iteration of a lot of pink and nostalgia. But no, the active smashing of the patriarchy is very much alive, hasn't gone anywhere, and I think is still very much a tenet of radical feminism that's very commonplace in the culture today. And it will be, because it's effective. It's a great way to silence men and make them feel like they don't have any voice in the argument, and to make women feel like they're doing their job based on these feminist principles.
So in your book, The End of Women, you talk about the early development of feminism, and you followed the lives of which influential women?
Yeah, well, a ton of them. I went all the way back to the earliest stages of feminism, and starting with Mary Wollstonecraft, who's considered the godmother of the movement. I also talk about Elizabeth Cady Stanton, Susan B. Anthony, go through all the major players, of obviously Betty Friedan, getting into the second wave, Gloria Steinem, Kate Millett, Angela Davis, on and on. So yeah, it's one of these things that I think we've been told that feminism took this radical turn in the second wave. But when I went back and looked at the first wave, it's very clear that it's had problems from the very beginning. Part of it being because it was actually defined, this idea of the independent woman came from a man, of all places. So that was one of the surprising things, was just to see how all these pieces have fit together. And the 1800s feminism was just as toxic in many ways as what we're experiencing. Well, not today, not that bad, but it certainly was created the foundation for what we're experiencing today.
The phrase "independent woman" came from a man. Give us more context there. Where I think we're getting somewhere, but give us the context.
Yeah. So Mary Wollstonecraft had a daughter whom you know as Mary Shelley, who wrote Frankenstein. And while Mary Shelley is penning Frankenstein, her husband, Percy Shelley, who was the English poet, he was writing about this woman named Cythna. And Cythna was the first woman in all of the literature to not be married. She had no children. The only relationship she had was actually with the devil. And this became really this iconic character for a lot of the feminists during the 1800s. And we see in that creation of that woman, he's got the three pieces that we see throughout feminism, which are the occult, this desire for free love, or, getting rid of the family, and monogamy, and then this idea of restructuring society, or which has become smashing the patriarchy. So those are the three pieces that were in 1920. He's writing about this, and those are what have come down to us through Elizabeth Cady Stanton, through Susan B. Anthony, through all these suffrage movement, and obviously up through Betty Friedan and the others. But of course, all this couldn't have happened unless it really the movement started hitching its wagon to communism, and that's really where things, it's like adding gasoline to a flame, and that's really where things have taken off, and how we've gotten to the point now where all this Marxist ideology is really running the movement.
So is there a kind of feminism? Let me try that again. Is there a kind of feminism that's compatible with Christianity?
I don't really think there is anymore, unless women are very specific about defining themselves in a way that doesn't include any of these things. But communism, Marxism, smashing the patriarchy, free love, and the occult, none of that is going to be compatible with Christianity. So I think feminism has done an amazing job of branding itself, and it's really almost indefinable, because women just think it means being pro-woman, and most women don't have any idea all these connections that they're getting involved with. So I think that's the hard part, is the definition is very elusive. And this is why people, I think, have thought, well, we can just massage it into our own sort of Christian theology. But if you do that, you have to recognize that you're not really in accord with what feminism actually is. You're creating something new.
So going back to Mary Godwin, Shelley, so the first wave, Margaret Sanger, Planned Parenthood. Planned Parenthood's founded in 1916, and the Frankfurt School in the 20s. Are these parallel tracks, or are these collaborators taking different angles to the same destination?
Yeah, no, I think that's a great question. I think they are collaborators. I don't, it's not clear to me that they knew who each other was. I mean, this is the amazing thing about the Communist Party, is that it had so many different tentacles, so many people working in different ways. You had the U.S. Communist Party, you had the Soviet Communist Party, all of these, the International Party, all these different units doing different things, but they all had the same goal. And it's interesting to look at Sanger's life, because she actually initially was very happy with motherhood and seemed like a very contented woman. And then she and her husband moved to Paris, and she became very involved with the radical leftists there. So, yeah, I think that it's amazing to just see how all of these people are sort of doing something similar, but it all goes back to some kind of radical communist source.
And so the antidote to now 100 years plus of the disease.
Yeah, well, I mean, the antidote is to finally just stop doing what we've been doing, which is thinking that feminism is somehow, beneficent godmother that's just sort of watching over us and caring for us, but to recognize that it's just this incredibly deadly ideology. And I think it's also to just start recognizing what women are, instead of putting the masculine on a pedestal. That's really what's happened with the movement, is that we've idealized the masculine, and not the good masculine. We're talking about very bad men that feminists are encouraging us to act like. So those are, it's to undo the things that we have done, that we've been doing. Bad men
that feminists are encouraging women to act like. Explain.
Men that are drunk and promiscuous and aren't responsible and blame other people and resentful. These are all the things that they've been encouraging. I think not what they would call toxic masculinity, but objectively just bad people who are abusing other people and behaving in awful ways.
Now, if someone asked you, what is a woman, what would you say?
Well, the short answer, of course, is the, adult female human. But I think it goes a lot deeper than that. I think women are there's an element of motherhood that has to be involved, and not just biological. I think we're also meant to be psychological and spiritual mothers as well. And, we can see this kind of seeping out in the culture. You know, we've taken children and grandchildren away from women, and we've seen this explosion of pets and even plants. We see people calling themselves plant parents now. So women have this desire to love and nurture and care for others, and it's going to manifest itself one way or another. And you know, we currently spend $700 million on Halloween costumes for our pets in the United States. So it's coming out in that format, and I think you know, we don't need to continue building a culture on all this resentment. We need to just start recognizing that, you know, being mad at half the country, half the population is actually not working for anyone.
I want to hear more about these plant moms. I mean, I've heard of goldfish moms and cat moms.
It's probably
no, the plant.
Same concept. It sounds like, yeah.
It's the new thing. Yeah, it's the new thing. Mm-hmm.
And then you got to get a Halloween costume for your plant.
Right,
Yeah,
exactly.
right.
Take it out trick or treating.
We played a clip from this pastor in Ohio the other week that I thought he summed up our culture right now pretty well, and see if you agree with this, and if you do, how much feminism, as you're describing it over the last century, is to blame. He described a culture where men are unrestrained and it leaves women unprotected. Is that a pretty good one sentence summation?
Yeah, I think there's another piece of it. I think women have been unrestrained as well, and actually told to actively see men and children as their enemy. And I think that there you are, you know, kind of at two sides of a magnet. Everybody's sort of forced against one another. And that's really by design. I mean, the feminist movement is about power and controlling people and making people, breaking people, basically, so that the state then has more power and can call the shots. And that's, you know, why communism was so actively against the nuclear family, because when you have an intact, healthy nuclear family, that's going to be, you know, a vital living force against communist ideology.
And that's exactly what a Frankfurt School theorists like Wilhelm Reich were arguing in the 1920s. I mean, people need to go back and read this. I mean, this is not new, and their designs for society were not nuanced.
Yeah, and I love that, you know, Wilhelm Reich actually wrote a book, and it was published in 1936, called The Sexual Revolution, and it was the blueprint for the movement. And, you know, people think it sort of happened organically, but it was all planned from the start, for sure.
But certainly the seeds were planted, and then subsequent generations picked them up and ran with them. Yeah, right. So what is your level of optimism? You know, I go back to this conversation we had with Ryan T. Anderson maybe a year, 18 months ago, and he's, you know, and I mean, I'm a fan, but I'm also much more skeptical than he is. He thought, like, well, when it's the bathroom thing, that's going to be the end of the trans movement. Women's sports, that thing, when men start playing women's sports, it's going to be the end of it. I didn't see that. I didn't see that at the time. I didn't see it going down that way, and it's not going down that way at present in my assessment. What is your view? I mean, like, how optimistic are you that these obvious excesses that are generating some pushback are really going to alter the course of culture?
Yeah, well, I mean, I think there's a difference between my, you know, optimism. I'm not very optimistic about it, but I am seeing some glimmers of hope, especially with with women, moms getting involved. I think that's one of the fascinating things. I mean, look who's the government's targeting right now are moms. These are sort of the, you know, the wild card in politics, like Phyllis Schlafly and her Eagle Forum. Like, nobody expected that, and look what happened with the ERA because of her. So I think that, you know, the government tells us who they're afraid of, and right now it's moms, and it's just really heartening. And this is one of the things I talk about in my book, is that so many of us don't agree with the radical feminist ideology, but we feel totally isolated. We have, you know, no sort of platform to hook into to start making our voice heard. And I think this is what these kinds of groups are doing, is providing a place for women to actually get involved and to influence their friends and, you know, certainly their families as well. So I think that is certainly a first glimmer of hope. I think the other piece is just to see that people have, you know, the Bud Light piece that came out of nowhere, and that seems like it's continuing. People are a lot of times with boycotts, people will be like, I can do that for a week, but I'm giving up on it. But this seems to have the longevity that we haven't seen anywhere else either. So it seems like people are starting to pay attention and realize that their dollars can send some really strong signals to shutting this down.
She is Carrie Gress, fellow at the Ethics and Public Policy Center, scholar at the Institute for Human Ecology at Catholic University of America. The new book, The End of Woman, How Smashing the Patriarchy Has Destroyed Us. The End of Woman, Carrie Gress. Carrie, thanks so much for joining us. Appreciate it.
My pleasure. Thanks for having me.
Thank you. And she joined us on our turnkey.pro answer line.
You've made the switch, and it feels so good. You've switched to Chicago's Morning Answer on AM 560. The Answer.
You've heard me tout the goodness that is 120 Life. It has so many benefits that I can't stop talking. It's my go-to juice. I drink it every day, help keep my blood pressure in check, and I feel better drinking it. It's packed with natural ingredients that have amazing health benefits like pomegranate, hibiscus, and cherry. 120 Life tastes good, and it feels good, especially when you pour it over ice. It comes in a convenient 8-ounce bottle that makes it easy to take on the go, as well as the new powdered drink mix with only 1 gram of sugar and 5 calories. Go to 120life.com. That's 120life.com. Use coupon code LIBERTY. Save 15% off plus free shipping. And you can earn customer rewards points with every order. Points that you can collect and redeem for product discounts up to $50. Check it out at 120life.com. That's 120life.com. Make it easy to manage your high blood pressure. Try it today. Order now, 120life.com, and use coupon code LIBERTY. Save 15%. 120life.com. 120 Life. I love this stuff.
By the way, I got a text from 815 asking if I wore my members-only jacket to that REM concert I went to at the Rosemont Horizon back in the day.
Oh, you had one, right?
I did have one briefly, but by that time I had matured, and I went to the concert in sort of, the Alex P. Keaton garb.
Oh, really?
Yeah. Well,
you ditched the parachute pants and the members only